let's get right into this one. Am I telling you, today is really about prose again. And we've done this last time. This is the third video in the series. And like I said in the first two videos of this particular series, history is so we can analyze what has come before us, so we can learn what works and what doesn't work. So, in this new playlist, Prose, Become a Pro at Prose, it gives me a chance to break down prose from the pros out there in the world. Today, we are diving, or more importantly, jumping into the fantastical world of Suzanne Collins' The Hunger Games. And we're going to focus on the first chapter, only a couple passages. We're not the whole chapter, just that like first page. Like in the first two videos, basically what I'll do is I'll show you how Collins crafts her sentences. We'll look about plot, moving the plot forward, developing characters, world building, movements. We're going to talk about movements today. What else? What else is on the list? Oh, talking about when it's a description for description's sake, etc., etc., etc. And by looking at what Collins has done, it'll help us develop our own skills. So today is The Power of Prose in The Hunger Games, a YA dystopian fiction study. All right. But what is Hunger Games? Well, we should always know what we're working on. The Hunger Games, written by Suzanne Collins and published in 2008, is the first book in a dystopian trilogy that captivated readers worldwide. Set in a future where the oppressive capital forces, they basically force children from various districts to participate in televised deathmatch. Ratings. The normal reality is, who wants to pay to see that? No one will pay to see Mike Tyson fight Paul. Oh, wait, they did. So this novel has been praised for its intense storytelling, complex characters, and social commentary at the time. The Hunger Games was a New York Times bestseller. It had won multiple awards, including the California Young Reader Medal, and was adapted into a major motion picture. And it just doesn't seem to be stopping. They're making more movies, right? The book is classified as young adult, or YA, dystopian fiction, and basically connects strongly with both teen and adult audiences due to its mature themes and gripping narrative. All right. Well, that's great. Let's get to it. We're going to analyze the prose. For the pros, let's just. How do we feel about that? Can you see? All right. Also, if you notice, I got a couple. If you've been watching the series, you notice I got some more things. I got 3 new things on there. We're gonna look at what the movement changes in passages and prose are. We're gonna look at POV focus and tense. All right. So right off the bat, we know that it is first person. Because when I wake up, the other side of the bed is cold, and this makes it also in present tense, because when I wake up, instead of when I woke up, the other side of the bed was cold. Anyway. All right. So before we jump into it real quick, redefining certain things. Every sentence must have one or more of these 3 elements: plot, character development, or world building. It could have all 3. It could have 2, but it must have at least one. We're going to discover which is what. If it is not through the POV of a character, then it becomes pure exposition or description for description's sake. And remember, a narrative is made up of both plot and story. Plot is what needs to happen no matter what, and story is how it unfolds through the emotional experiences and choices of your characters. So basically, if it's in the POV of a character, you're pretty much going to be creating story. If it is just describing something like the bed is cold and the house was filled with nothing but old furniture, and then the next passage is the weather outside was cool and crisp in the wintertime. Like, you're just describing things, nothing's through the experiences of. So it's more plot and less story. But remember, a narrative needs both plot and story. So by putting the plot through the filter of a character's emotional experiences and choices, it develops your full narrative. But let's get into it. All right. So the first sentence, when I wake up, the other side of the bed is cold. All right. So right here, this is just character development. It's not much to start, but we are establishing that they are waking up and the bed is cold. Kind of moves the plot forward, but at the same time, because we know she's waking up. All right, let's see. Next sentence, which, by the way, if you notice, is long. Okay, we have a nice short sentence in the beginning, right to the point. Okay, when I wake up, the other side of the bed is cold, and then it jumps to a longer sentence, right? Changing the rhythm. My fingers stretched out, seeking Prim's warmth, but finding only the rough canvas cover of the mattress. Okay, a couple things here. The first sentence has a slower pace because it's just keeping it moving. The second one allows us to kind of linger in the moment for a moment for the beat, because we are experiencing her emotional response to the fact that Prim's missing. My fingers stretched out, meaning she's searching, because it is seeking Prim's warmth, but finding only the rough canvas cover of the mattress. So this is adding to plot and character. There's no world building yet because it's not informing us of the world itself. It's just we are through the experience of the character, which is good. So this is neither pure exposition or description for description's sake. These two sentences are doing something because they are through the POV and the emotional experience and choices of the character. The character chose to search for Prim. That's a character development. Okay. The movement changes in a passage. So this is all still one movement. She is waking up in the bed and she's stretching her arm out to find Prim. So we're still in the same movement. All right. She hasn't gotten up for the bed. Somebody hasn't entered. She hasn't started talking, whatever the case is. Right. Let's see. Oh yeah, we already went over the tenses. Now let's go over this one. Now this one's a medium-sized sentence compared to the first two, and that's okay. She must have had bad dreams and climbed in with our mother. This is character development. Okay. This is also exposition, but not for exposition's sake. And the reason is because we are determining historical evidence. We are determining, it's not world building still because we're not building the world, but we are determining character development of the mother, more importantly, Prim, and of course, Katniss, because this is something that is familiar to her. It's showing that there may have been a pattern. So this isn't the first time. So it's establishing history, right? A practice of effort, right? So she must have had bad dreams. We're also establishing that that's something that is common for Prim, and climbed in with our mother. So we know that Prim does this. All right. This is internal. So this is an internal thought without it being an internal thought. Like, it's not italicized. There's no need for the italicized. But when you're in first person, you could do this a little bit more fluidly. And this is just she's making a comment to herself. She's just like, oh, she must have gone. And then she is sort of talking to herself as well, but in her mind. With, by the way, a quick short sentence creates the rhythm now, right? We get to go back to this. Of course she did. She must have had bad dreams and climbed in with our mother. Of course she did, right? She's confirmed. She's like, obviously that's what she did, which makes this character development because she is processing, right? Even this is plot and character. She is processing information, and then she's confirming it in her mind. Of course she did. All right, yeah. So this is through the character's confirmation, right? And then this is plot and world building and character. This is the day of the reaping. All right. I would say this is more plot and world building than it is character, but it is through Katniss's POV, and this is her thought. And we're attaching this is the day of reaping to, of course she did. She had bad dreams. And now all of this takes on a new context. She's waking up on the day of the reaping. Prim is not in bed where she normally is. She's having a bad nightmare. Of course she is, and that's why she's hiding with Mother, because day is the reaping. So this is like, it reverses the experience of that passage, because at first it's just she's waking up in a cold bed. Where's Prim? Oh, she must have had a bad dream. Going, oh wait, yeah, of course she had a bad dream. This is the reaping. So it has a nice, like, if it filters back to the beginning. So when you're writing passages, think about that. Sometimes you don't have to have the full context. Like, she doesn't have to start, for example, if we're gonna, like, it doesn't have to start today began the morning of the reaping. That's a fine sentence. There's nothing wrong with that per se, right? Today began the morning of the reaping. Waking up alone in my bed. I stretched out, searching for Prim's warmth, but finding only the rough canvas cover. Oh, wait, what? Cover of the mattress. All right, I think I made it. Today, begun. Today begun the morning of the reaping. Waking up alone in my bed, I stretch, my fingers stretch out, okay? Searching, stretch out. Ooh, yeah, we got to do seeking because that's a different kind of verb. All right, so it could have started this way. Today begun the morning of the reaping, waking up alone in my bed. Right, and we could even do waking up made sense. Even as my fingers stretch out, seeking for Prim's warmth. But finding nothing. She's not there. Okay, but finding only the rough canvas. Okay, so it could have started out today, begun the morning of the reaping, but the reason it doesn't is because now it does it narratively reorganizes this thought. This whole passage becomes a new passage just because this line came at the end. If it came at the beginning, this passage would have started, this is the day of the reaping. Right? This is the day, this is the day of the reaping when I wake up and the other side of the bed is cold. My fingers straight, right? It changes the flow of it. So when you're writing your passages or your prose, keep attention to the way you are exposing the information. All right. Now, keep in mind, there's also a narrative purpose to this, which is nice. This is why stuff is actually happening. And it isn't just stuff is happening, but nothing is happening, because it is through the process and experience and choices of the character, right? The character is only processing what they know. They are waking up on the other side of the bed, but the other side of the bed is cold, right? So that is what they're experiencing. So that's why it's so deeply first person. It's the only information they have. And then as they, by the way, movement changes in the passage. The first movement is they are waking up. They are now stretching out, moving to search for Prim. They realize they haven't. So then they have commentary on it. That commentary processes that information and realizes, oh yeah, today is the day of the reaping. It also, what's nice is in some books, you'll get, this is the, it'll go, this is the reaping, a collection of people from all the districts. And today she has to deal with, she must deal with the potential she'll be chosen to fight to the death, right? Like sometimes that can happen. that's when it becomes exposition for exposition's sake, when it's just a exposition dump. But what's nice about this is the day of the reaping, and it doesn't explain it. That's known as seeding. If you watch this channel enough and you hear me talk about seeding, seeding is when you take a chunk of information that you need the audience to know, and then you just piecemeal it and break it up and just sort of seed it throughout, planting these little seeds until it is till that information is earned, or more importantly, the audience, the reader, is discovering little bits. Oh, today is the reaping. I wonder what the reaping is. And then they get a little bit more information. Then they start connecting the dots, and now they feel a part of the journey, a part of the discovery. And they're not stopping the narrative to be like, the reaping, where a collection of people from all the districts are pulled together. And today she must deal with the potential. She'll be chosen and die. All right. So that's why it's important to piecemeal as well. So this is the day of the reaping, and that's why that's a strong seed, world building, and plot. And of course, it is through the character's experience. Therefore, it adds to character development. She is well aware of it. It only took her a little bit to piece together everything, which means her processing skill. So, this isn't unfamiliar to her. She's a self-aware character, etc., etc. Let's go to the next passage. Shall we? All right. Okay. Oh, and real quick, again, look at the sentences. This ain't a super short one. I'd say that's like an average one. And then we have a nice long one, or above average. Then we have a medium one. And then we have a real short one. And then we have a little short one, right? And that creates the rhythm, the jazz. Right, so like it has a rhythm to it, like the barometer. Keep that beat going, right? All right, here we go. I prop myself up on my pillow. I know it says elbow. I prop myself up on one elbow. Okay. So this is really neither plot nor world building. It is character development because it is technically through the experience of the character. She is making a choice to prop herself up under one elbow. Okay. But it is also a quick sentence because it is just, I understand it's plot. It's plot in the sense of like we are being told what's happening, right? She has to get comfortable in the bed. Oh, by the way, the movement changes because this is from her waking up, internalizing, and realizing. And now she is self-aware, she is awake, and she's making new moves. And that's why it's a new passage, because the movement has officially changed. She is now changed. It's like if I got in my car, or if I walk to my car, I get in and I turn the car on, that's a movement. Now, what's next? Right? Do I pick up the phone? Do I set up everything? Do I turn the radio to the right channel? And that becomes a new movement, because the first movement is to get into the car. The second movement is to get situated in the car. The third movement is to go. Okay. So that's one way to look at it. All right. I prop my elbow. Okay. And now, as you can see, short sentences, remember, are fast paced because they just need to get through the moment. You need to know what's happening. So clarity is important. It just gets to the point. And then there are certain moments that can linger because the character is specifically experiencing that, right? That's why this is a little bit longer. There's enough light in the room to see them. Okay. All right, here we go. Oh, let me just get through this real quick. Okay. My little sister Prim curled up on her side, cocooned in my mother's body, their cheeks pressed together. All right. So I prop myself up on one elbow, so she's still in her bed. There's enough light in the room to see them both. So this is sort of like world building because we're explaining that they live together in the same room, small room. Mother has one bed, she has another bed, both in the same room. That is confirmed by this longer sentence, which now is the character taking in what's happening. It's not description for description's sake, so you as the reader can understand what's happening. She is specifically choosing to recognize these particular, like, for example, my little sister, Prim, curled up on her side, cocooned in my mother's body, their cheeks pressed together. It could have easily been not that interesting. She could have not been like, look how safe she looks. Look how protected she looks in our mother's arms. Cocooned, warm, safe, protected, right? It could have just been like my little sister laid with my mother across in the other bed. It could have been that, because that could have been her emotional experience and what she's perceiving. All right. So any other character would not have seen that description the same way. And that's something to remember, especially in first person, is the narrative or the prose need to be written through the choices and the experiences and the processing of a character. The way they see the world is a part of that character development. The way you describe stuff through their POV is a part of the character development. Okay. All right. In sleep, my mother looks younger, still worn, but so broken, beaten down. This is commentary and processing of the character. So this is character development. Okay. In sleep, my mother looks younger, still worn, but not so beaten down. Okay. This is all processing, all of this. These three sentences. This is processing. She's processing specifically how her sister is curled up next to their mother. Cocoon. That's a very specific word. Cocooned, right? Cocoon, cocoon. Okay. And then now she's just kind of like taking in how her mother looks, which is very important. Why? Because today is the day of the reaping. And life is tough and hard, which now makes this world building. Still worn, but not so beaten down. We are seeding the fact that they live in a dystopian. We don't know that yet. We don't know how rough it is, but we have been informed without, we don't need to know that Susan Collins doesn't have to write. They sleep together in a small room, small house, and they share one room with two beds, because the movement of the character's experience is defining that information without telling you. It's showing you that information through the character's emotional experiences and choices, right? There's enough light in the bedroom to see them. My little sister, she doesn't care that it's not information she needs, that, oh, we're in the same room with two beds. We're sharing the same room with two beds. What she cares about is how her little sister Prim is curled up next to their mother, cocooned. So the fact that, oh, we grew, oh, there she is in the other bed that occupies the single room that we both share. That is uninteresting information for this character. That could be another way to go for a different character. And that's why it's so important to think about what it is you're writing down for each sentence, okay, and how prose develop. They must, in some way or another, represent the truth of the character, okay? And you can define things without directly stating them. We are making inferred decisions as readers based on the description through the fluidity of the character's story. Okay. The plot is Katniss has to wake up and see that Prim is laying in bed with the mother. The story is what she is specifically noticing that is creating the experience and the choices she is making. All right. That's why these sentences are also longer too, because she's experiencing it. She's taking these beats in because today is the reaping. So when she sees her, that's why I prop myself up on one elbow is not important. It's just something she's doing. She's like, and then, oh, I could see them. They're across the room. And now when she sees them, it's my little sister. And then it's my mother. She looks so young, still worn, but so beaten down. Prim's face is as fresh as a raindrop, as lovely as the prime rose for which she was named. Okay, so now there's some world building. There's some character development for the mother as well. But she, Katniss, a guy, a girl, a cat, a dog, whatever, the way they are perceiving the moment, she's lingering on their looks, their peace, the way they are entangled in each other, cocooned, okay? Because today is the reaping. So everything has narrative purpose. Each line has a narrative purpose and a movement into the next line. They all work in conjunction with each other. I prop myself up on one elbow, and instead of saying she looked across the room or she saw her mom with her sister, we go through the experience. There's enough light in the room to see them. And what does she see? She sees that first, she sees that her little sister Prim is curled up on her side, cocooned in her mother's body. Their cheeks are pressed together, which now we went from Prim, cheeks pressed together, to the mother sleeping. In sleep, my mother looks younger, still worn, but not so beaten down. And now we go from the mother's looks to Prim's face is as fresh as raindrops. Okay. Which brings us now to internal thought. Okay. My mother, my mother was very beautiful once too. Or so they tell me. Oh. By the way, I want to go over a couple quick things now that we got this far. All right. So my mother was very beautiful once too, or so they tell me. Oh wait, I did 2 sentences in that chat. Boop, 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 boop. But as you can see, the second sentence is pretty short. This or so they tell me, because we don't need to linger on that moment. Just get it out of the way. Sometimes it's important to just do that. Just get it out of the way. That's quickening the pace, right? But when you want to you linger on things that have emotional resonance, emotional truth to it, that propel the narrative and add depth and inform your audience. But certain things, sometimes somebody just needs to walk through the door. Okay. Sometimes you have to. But if walking through that door creates atmosphere, tension, history, what is the character noticing? Some characters notice the wood, others notice that there's blood all over the place. I'm just saying, right? So, this is obviously a longer beat than the first beat, okay? Because there's more going on. She's processing more. She's experiencing, of course, the reaping. I want to go back, and there's something I wanted to touch on. Because as writers, we focus on, are we good? We compare ourselves to people, right? All writers, even successful writers like Suzanne Collins, who are published, still have moments where their works can be touched. For example, have bad dreams, right? It's pretty generic and bad in the sense of like, she must have had bad dreams. There's no tactile or visceral element to it. There's no emotional truth. It's just, she's just describing it as a bad dream, right? It's generic and bland. And that choice is okay. You don't have to, I could easily you could easily just be like violent, right? Why am I capitalizing? Right? She must have had violent dreams, right? Okay. Uncomfortable dreams. It could be anything, right? But sometimes it's all right to just be simple. All right. The same thing with, of course she did, right? You don't need the comma. I don't know. The comma is not needed, right? However, if you're creating a rhythm of thought and process, because it's through her POV, of course she did, right? It changes the way it's read. Of course she did, right? In reality, you don't need the comma, but she has the comma, and they said, hey, that's great. And then, of course, what is the other thing you hear? You hear very, right? My mother was very beautiful. Very. Hey, you gotta get rid of those words. Oh, I do? Why? Because very beautiful could be gorgeous once. Look, I just saved on a word. My mother was gorgeous once. But you know what? Susan Collins wanted to use very beautiful. Also, was is considered, hey, you shouldn't use that, you know? My mother, you know, uh, they told me my mother used to be, or my mother had a beauty to her once, you know, a great beauty to her once, or my mom had a, you know, whatever, right? How do you get rid of was? But my point is, very beautiful could have easily just turned into gorgeous, but she chose very beautiful. So when you're writing, allow your instincts to control you. At the end of the day, just because someone says you should change this line doesn't mean you need to change a line. It's good to think about it. You know, like if someone's like, hey, maybe you should just change that to gorgeous, or, you know, elegant, or tranquil, or whatever. Find another word, because very is, you know, and then you say stuff, well, let me see, let me try things. But at the end of the day, you are the writer, you are the creator. You have to choose what works for you. All right, we're at 30 minutes. Let's do one more. Actually, since this one's a really long one, I'm going to skip down and go to a shorter one. That's a really... Sitting at Prim's knee, guarding her, is the world's ugliest cat. Mashed in nose, half of one ear missing, eyes color of rotten squash. Prim named him Buttercup, insisting that his muddy yellow hat match the bright flower. Oh, actually, I'm not going to go over every sentence, but this whole thing right here is what we would call pure exposition and description for description's sake. The only reason it now converts to stuff actually happening is because he hates me, or at least distrusts me. Even though it was years ago, I think he still remembers how I tried to drown him in a bucket when Prim brought him home. So this is all one big passage too, by the way. This is not it's not broken up. Like this is what you're getting, right? I would probably break this up though. Prim name Buttercup, he hates me, or at least just even though it was years ago, I think he still remembers coming down. But see, it's all about this cat. To me, this is I don't know. You know, this scrawny cat. The last thing I needed was another mouth to feed, but Prim. So this is world building and important for the character, and that's probably why she added the cat element. You know, she just has to do her job. You know, last thing I needed was another mouth to feed, but Prim begged so hard, cried even. I had to let him stay. It turned out I would almost do this, honestly. I would break it up, but it turned out okay. My mother got rid of the vermin, and he's a born mouser. Yeah, even catches the occasional rat. Sometimes when I clean a kill, I feed Buttercup the entrance. This is a lot of exposition. This is heavy exposition, right? But it's going through the process of Katniss. All right, she's having at least even though it was years ago, I think he still remembers. Like she's like, you know, she's talking about it. She's like, this is what she's thinking about. So she sees the cat, she's thinking about it, right? But she's also talking about like the value of Prim and like why she makes sacrifices for her younger sister. Right? This is her processing more information. Last thing I really that's the thing. Like, why did I get a crappy cat? You know, it's the last thing. But my baby sister wanted it, so I had to. Right? So because it filters in through the POV of the character, and it also gives us insight, which is character development. It strays away from pure exposition and just stuff is happening, but nothing is happening. Like if it was just this passage would be considered stuff is happening, but nothing is happening. It would be considered pure exposition, and it would be description for description's sake. Sitting at Prim's knees, guarding her, is the world's ugliest cat. Mashed in nose, half of one ear missing, eyes the color of rotten squash. Prim named him Buttercup, insisting that his muddy yellow coat matched the bright flower. Okay. Yeah, there's a character in there, character development because Prim did something, right? And then there's world building because of the bright flower and the buttercup, right? But because it is not through the POV or the it's not part of it's not story because it's not through the emotional experience of a character until he hates me or at least distrusts me. Even though it now, and that is the power of expanding moments and beats just to get a character in it. I would probably adjust this personally. This is a little heavy for someone, and I write epic fantasy, but I don't really like these thick. I would probably kind of play with it a little bit more. But anyway, I wanted to come here for a reason. Let's go through this real quick, and then there's a reason. I want to show you something about writing. But anyway, all right. So let's do this. All right. I swing my legs off the bed and slide into my hunting boots. Okay. So now that she's in the hunting boots, okay. Now that she's in the hunting boots, now we have to say supply leather that has molded to my feet. All right. So the narrative movement is she gets up, throws her legs over, and she is now into the hunting boots. Now we describe the hunting boots to create immersion. What does she do next? Well, the next thing she does is she puts on some pants, maybe a shirt, tuck in my long dark braid up into a cap, and grab my forage bag. So she's waking up right away to go hunting. Breaking the laws before we even get started. All right. On the table, under a wooden bowl to protect it from hungry rats and cats alike, sits a perfect little goat cheese wrapped in basil leaves. Okay. And then we'll go over this a little bit. I just want to. Prim's gift to me on reaping day. Oh, that's nice. That's really nice. Okay. All right. I put the cheese carefully in my pocket as I slip outside. All right. So this is basically just the movement of her getting ready and leaving the house, right? I swing my legs off the bed and slide into my hunting boots. Okay, hunting boots. Okay, this is plot. The hunting boots do add a little bit of world building. Oh, she's okay. She's in this world. She's getting up, and the first thing she's doing is getting into hunting boots. Okay. And then we learn that she has done this a lot. This is the character development, okay? And plot. We well, more character development than plot, but because supple leather that has molded to my feet, saying that she has done this a long time. All right. She just pulls up her trousers. Okay, we understand it. Oh, she's putting her braided hair into a cap and she grabs her forage bag. All right. So we are learning that this is her morning routine. We know that she is at least skilled in this process because she is making sure her hair is not going to distract or disrupt her. Okay. This part, this is just character development. On the table under a wooden bowl to protect it from the hungry rats and cats alike sits a perfect little goat cheese wrapped in basil leaves. Nice, nice, nice. And there's some world building in there because the hungry rats and cats like, right? And then here's some character development and plot technically and world building because of the reaping. So this is all three things in one sentence. And look how short the sentence is. The sentence is extremely short, and it does character, plot, and world building. Prim's gift to me on reaping day. Reaping day is pure exposition. Is not pure. Is world building because now we realize not only because that first paragraph, this is the day of the reaping, but now we know that it is called reaping day. Okay. Now, the other thing is the character development is Prim's gift to me. So Prim, we're learning something about Prim. And then additionally, plot is the fact that this is indeed reaping day. Okay. And then I put the cheese carefully in my pocket as I slipped outside. That's plot. We are moving the narrative and the character somewhere. They are leaving one area and going to another, and that's considered plot. I put the cheese carefully in my pocket is character development as I slipped outside, which usually indicates that she's trying to do it as quiet as possible. She's trying to do it as quiet as possible because you don't want to be too loud when you're trying to get out of the house and the sister and the mother are sleeping like cocoons. Cocoon, cocoon. All right. But with that said, this is what I wanted to talk about. Supple leather that has molded to my feet. Okay. All right. Supple leather that has molded to my feet. Now, a lot of times people say, oh, you shouldn't use that. You should get rid of that. Okay. But if we look at that, that has been used to insisting that is muddy yellow and that. So it's not so much that you use the word, it's how you use the word. Okay. Because honestly, if you took this word, supple leather has molded to my feet, is immediate. That has molded to my feet means that it has happened over time. And that is the big difference. What are you going for? You're going for has molded, as in it's immediately happening, or that has, and you're giving it that there is a history to this. So sometimes it's okay. The other thing is, this sentence technically is not correct. I pull on trousers, a shirt, tuck my long dark braid up into a cap, and grab my forage bag. Okay, the reason this is not accurate is because this is a movement, and then tuck my long dark braid is a new movement. So technically would be and a shirt. So I pull on trousers and a shirt, tuck my long dark braid up into a cap, and grab my forage bag. It would be like that. But why did Suzanne Collins say the hell with that? And why did an editor ignore that? Because this is part of voice and storytelling, right? Sometimes grammar loses out to flow and movement. I pull on trousers, a shirt, tuck my long dark braid up into a cap, and grab my forage bag. Okay, sometimes you just want to keep that movement. It's all about flow and rhythm. And I pull on trousers and a shirt, tuck, like it changes the rhythm. So sometimes rhythm and fluidity is more important than perfect grammar because this needs end, according to the grammar lords. All right. Whoop. Okay. So there you go. Whee! All right. And as far as movement and changes, as you can see, there are two forms of movement. There's movement within a passage. I swing my legs off the bed and slide into my hunting boots. Now that we are ending on boots, let's describe the boots. Supple leather that has molded to my feet. It's giving not only description, but through experience. It's through her life, and it's giving exposition without directly saying, I do this often. Okay. Now that she has her boots on, she's going to pull on her trouser, shirt, tuck my long black braid, right? She's doing the next step. Now that she's dressed, she's on her way out. We don't have to say she's on her way out. We just say she looks over on the table under a wooden bowl to protect, right? This sort of kind of describes her life and world. She has a little insight. She's processing information, seeing the cheese, reminded her that it was a gift from Prim. So that's narrative movement. It's all connecting to each other. And after that, so she describes the cheese. It's a gift from the reaping. So what does she do? She puts the cheese carefully in her pocket. So she gives it some quote unquote emotional weight as I slip outside. Now, right? Let's see how many times she says as. All right. Just for fun. Now, this is only, by the way, this is going to be, what is this? 368 words. Okay, so this is a page. All right, let's see how many times it says as. Prim's face is as fresh as a raindrop, as lovely as the primrose for which she was named. My mother was quite beautiful. Now, there's a lot of as's there, but it's not used as in like she opened the door as she stepped through it, right? It's just, there's a lot of as there. Okay, because it's as fresh as a raindrop, as lovely as the primrose. Okay, let's see. Was. Oh, look. Even though it was years ago, I needed was another mouth to feed. Was. Has and as. So she only used the I put the cheese carefully in my pocket as I slipped outside. Now I believe there are many more as's, but keep that in mind. Sometimes but Collins does a lot of like there's another phrase where she goes, it's silent as a stone. Like she's big on the you know? As. 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 As fresh as. Right. So keep that in mind. Sometimes you know, some people are like, hey, these words are too much. You shouldn't use it. Right. But Susan likes as. She loves as. As you can see. When it comes to the word choices and grammar, does it serve the flow, the rhythm, or your narrative purpose, your voice? Sometimes it's okay to forego grammar rules. However, it still has to have the most important element, which is clarity. It must make sense. Okay. What does that mean? It's like sometimes when someone says he stood up near the men running out the door. Now, if the author believed that I'll even say John stood up near the men running out the door. This sentence means that the men are running out the door. John stood up near the men running out the door. Okay? Uh, John stood up near the men as he ran out the door. Okay? That would change. So grammar is important. There are certain rules that are very important. Other rules you can break and play. Like for example, the Oxford comma. It's your choice. So we kind of went over those. We kind of went over movement of. Oh yeah, I jumped the gun. So movement of sentence is just everything flows into it. When I wake up, on the other side of bed is cold. So because I'm waking up in a cold bed, I'm searching my fingers for Prim. She's not there. Why is she not there? So let me justify it. She must have had a bad dream with her mother. Of course she did. Of course she did. And why? Because this is a reaping day. So I'm going to look for Prim, knowing that she's probably with my mother, which changes the movement, which is the second part. So each sentence has to have a movement into the next sentence, and each passage becomes a new passage with new movement. And the new movement is that she is searching for Prim. I prop myself up on one elbow. There's enough light in the bedroom to see them. Look at my little sister Prim curled up on her side, cocooned in my mother. And we already did this one. So how it all kind of flows into it. So when you look at movement, remember every sentence needs to move into the next. They have to logically make sense. If you mention something, for example, and then this is it. I'm done after this. If I go Thomas stood up grabbing his favorite gun. Stylish. Piece given to him as a gift. Given to him. 40th birthday. Okay. I can't spell. All right. Thomas stood up, grabbing his favorite gun. The logical narrative is now I could kind of describe it. I could even do this. A stylish piece given to him on his 4th birthday. His 44th. 4th. Yes. Jesus. Come on, Thomas. All right, there we go. 40th birthday. All right. Or you could go Thomas stood up, grabbing his favorite gun. It's brown handle and long black muzzle or a neck stood the length. Traditional rifle meant for hunting. Okay. All right. So Thomas stood up, grabbing his favorite gun. The narrative truth is we have to now describe the gun. I would even, there we go. It's brown handle, a long black neck. Took up the length of a traditional rifle meant for hunting. Now we have to describe hunting. Or what does that mean? The length of a traditional rifle meant for hunting. Why do we bring that up? Well, but today was not for hunting, not for food. And yet, he steadied coming battle that awaited 5 miles from his house. All right, but today was not for hunting. Okay. And yet he steadied himself. Okay, but today was not for hunting. Not for hunting, nor food. Yet he steadied himself for the coming battle that awaited him outside. All right, so you have to just keep explaining or adding narrative truth to the sentence beforehand. And now we have choices here. Steadied himself for the coming battle that awaited him 5 miles from his house. So we could talk about the house now, or we could talk about the battle. And that becomes a choice based on the character's decision. So as you're writing, you have to think, is the character making the choice to pay attention to the house or the battle? And this is where it gets where you could play with it. I could even change the movement. Yet he steadied himself for the coming battle that awaited him 5 miles from his house. All right. Let's see. He paused at the door. Okay, so now we know he's leaving. He paused at the door, turning to take in the large open setting. Now we have to the setting. Okay. A lone table he ate at many times with his now dead wife. A couch. The long nights in the fields. And photos of history he fought for. All right, so he paused at the door, turning to take in the large open setting. Now we have to describe the setting. A lone table, but again, it's not description for description's sake. Why is he specifically noticing these things? So a lone table he ate at many times with his now dead wife. We're explaining stuff. A couch he slept on after long nights in the fields, world building and character development, and photos of a history he fought for now, motivation, stakes. Okay, so that is what movement looks like. The first thing that happens is a sentence creates a question, and then you have to choose what question do you want to answer that was brought up from that sentence. Thomas stood up is not really something that's clear and direct. Grabbing his favorite gun. Well, why is this gun his favorite? Or we can describe the gun. It's brown handle, a long black neck to hold up the length of a traditional rifle meant for hunting. So meant for hunting. Well, why is that? Now we have to discern why it was meant for hunting. Why is that important? Because it's a hunt, right? It's a traditional rifle. Why meant for hunting? Now you have to explain that. But today was not for hunting nor food. Yet he steadied himself for the coming battle that awaited him 5 miles from his house. Okay, that's saying a lot right there. Okay, so now the new movement is we got to get out of the house because we brought up the house. We brought up there's a war. So we got to get him to leave. And he paused at the door, which means he was leaving. So I don't have to write He headed towards the door, or he opened the door, or whatever. He paused at the door, turning to take in large open setting, and then you have to define the setting. Okay, so you have to think of that when you're writing. When you're writing. All right. With that said, I just want you to know, when it comes to writing, things change. Okay. When Susan Collins published The Hunger Games in 2008, okay, she not only launched a global phenomenon, but also set the stage for dramatic transformation in young adult literature. However, the past 16 years have witnessed significant shifts in both content and style, reflecting broader changes in society, technology, and reader expectations. Writing changes, it develops, it evolves. And you, as a writer, have the ability to influence that by allowing your voice to shine true on the page. What is it you're trying to say? Do you have something thicker to say, or something bigger and more emotionally filled with weight than I just want to show robots fighting humans? What kind of themes are you talking about? The way you talk about it, the way you move the camera on the page. The camera on the page, I talk about it often on the channel. I might even do a full video on that. But the way you zoom in, zoom out on moments, the way you slow down the narrative or speed it up depending on how far you are, right? The style in which you write, the things you write about, and the way and the why you write about those things is what influences the field out there, right? So when Lord of the Rings came out, it was much different than how we write fantasy today. And the same thing with the Hunger Games. It established a template for dystopian YA fiction with its critique on authoritarian control and media manipulation. But contemporary works have expanded these foundations in several ways. So, where the Hunger Games presented a relatively straightforward conflict between the districts and the capital, modern YA dystopian fiction often features more complex, more dynamics. Today's antagonists are rarely pure evil regimes, but rather systems built on morally ambiguous choices and complex historical contexts. Authors now frequently explore how ordinary people become complicit in oppressive systems rather than focusing solely on clear heroes and villains. So contemporary dystopian fiction has shifted their focus from primarily on political oppression to incorporating urgent environmental themes, climate crisis, biodiversity, environmental justice, things like that. But styles change, and the writing style itself has evolved significantly since 2008, with sentences have become generally shorter and more punchy, dialogue that feels more naturalistic, incorporating modern speech patterns, and descriptions tends to be more sensory and immediate, right? So it wasn't very immediate, right? So the example we just did. So present tense narration has become more common, and multiple viewpoints are increasingly the norm. Additionally, you might find that modern YA dystopian fiction often features shorter chapters with more frequent perspective shifts, integrating the integration of mixed media elements such as social media, news. Like it's talking about the world we live in, right? So the big thing is they have leaned more towards complex narratives and including non-linear storytelling, faster initial pacing. The world building is woven throughout rather than front loaded. So that's something to keep in mind. Anyway, with that said, final thoughts. Susan Collins' The Hunger Games shows us the power of clear, emotional charge prose. As writers, we should remember that finding our voice takes time and that the process of crafting effective prose is all about experimenting, learning, and growing. It's okay to draw inspiration from successful works, but remember that it's your unique perspective that will ultimately make your story stand out. Writing is about creating the strongest version of your own ideas, learning from what has come before, embracing the present, and using your voice to shape something truly original for the future. You don't need to replicate past or present successes. You need only to let the stories you want to tell take form on the page in the way that feels right for you. So keep writing, keep exploring, and above all, enjoy the process because it's literally all made up, and that's what makes it fun. Next video in this series, we're actually going to look at The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins, which is an adult psychological thriller. It's domestic noir. Noir. Okay. Question. What do you think makes the opening chapter of Hunger Games so compelling? Let me know your thoughts in the comments here below. And if you haven't done so already and you're like, these videos are pretty good, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out. I guess that's it. We're done. Hello? Yes. Keep developing the right mindset. I'll see you next time. Bye.